And he said he wanted what?
He said he wanted to see a blonde girl.
What did you take that to mean?
I wasn't even thinking about it. Like, I did not know what he wanted at all with it.
Anything offered in exchange for it?
Yeah, he offered me money.
And what did you say?
I said, okay, sure.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this video we're looking into yet again another unsolved disappearance. And this is one of the most famous, the disappearance of Natalee Holloway. In 2005, 18-year-old American Natalee Holloway disappeared on the Caribbean island of Aruba, and the investigation into what happened to her revealed many sinister facts about the people she was last seen with. Let's dig in and reveal what happened in the disappearance and subsequent investigation of Natalee Holloway. Natalee Holloway, born in 1986, was a recent graduate from Mountain Brook High School in Mountain Brook near Birmingham, Alabama. Natalee was described as well-rounded, responsible, and a determined young woman.
My friend, just, sitting in the back, cruising over to my place, and you're doing an excellent job, and I just want to say happy birthday. You look like a new woman, and I'm sure you feel like one too, and the beach was a blast. I had the best time of my life.
Natalee had earned a full-ride scholarship to the University of Alabama to study pre-med. On May 26, 2005, Natalee and 124 other fellow graduates of Mountain Brook High School arrived in Aruba for a 5-day unofficial graduation trip. There were 7 adults with them. As you can imagine, with 125 young adults on a foreign island, there was a lot of partying, like all day, every day. I mean, chances are most of them would probably never see each other again, so why the heck not? On May 30th, the day the graduates were due to fly home to the States, Natalee failed to show up at the airport. And that's when the alarms were raised. When a group returned to the hotel to see if she was still there, they found her luggage, they found her passport, but no Natalee. She was gone. Which brings us to the last time Natalee was seen alive. And more specifically, the people she was last seen with. A Dutchman, Joran Van Der Sloot, and local Aruban brothers Deepak and Satish Kalpo. The hotel she was staying at had a casino. There Natalee spotted a man who caught her eye, Joran Van Der Sloot, and he was accompanied by 2 brothers, Satish and Deepak Kalpo. She proceeded to invite him out to eat and dance at a local club called Carlos and Charlie's. It has not been concluded whether or not Natalee was drinking that night, but her family claims she was never a partier and always had her head on right. This was disputed by her classmates. Apparently she was drinking excessively, as they all were. It was a party holiday. Likely there was also drugs involved. Once Natalee and the 3 men arrive at the club, they remain there until the bar closes. The men then decided they wanted to go for a cruise around in their car, and Natalee asked if she could come along. Joran, Deepak, Satish and Natalee were last seen driving away from the club at 1:30 a.m. and Natalee was never seen again. Immediately following Natalee's missed flight, her mother and stepfather immediately flew to Aruba. Aruban authorities searched for Natalee throughout the island and surrounding waters, but they didn't find any leads. The search and rescue efforts for Natalee began immediately. Hundreds of volunteers from Aruba and the United States joined in the effort. During the first days of the search, the Aruban government gave thousands of civil servants the day off to participate in the rescue effort. 50 Dutch Marines conducted an extensive search of the shoreline. There were FBI agents, 3 F-16 jets with infrared sensors, satellites were used. Now, of course, Joran Van Der Sloot and the Kalpo brothers were taken in right off the bat. Now, Joran, his story, it flip-flops a lot, so we're gonna get into it. When the police arrived, he first said he didn't know her name, but then he changed his story. Spoiler alert, something he will do a lot. And then he said that they drove out to a beach to see sharks, after which he dropped her back to the hotel at about 2 a.m. I mean, they only left the club at 1:30 a.m, and he said they dropped her off 30 minutes later. Okay. According to Joran Van Der Sloot, Natalee fell down as she exited the car, but refused his help. He stated that as he and the Kalpoe brothers were driving away, Natalee was approached by a dark man in a black shirt, similar to those worn by security guards. Reports indicated that Natalee did not appear on any nighttime surveillance camera footage of the hotel lobby. However, there's been some speculation as to whether they were even on that night. It's also been reported that Natalee didn't actually have to walk through the lobby to get to her hotel room. But let's not get bogged down in whether the surveillance cameras in the hotel were on or not, because as the story unfolds, it doesn't seem likely she ever went back to the hotel room. On June 5th, a week after Natalee disappeared, police detained Nick John and Abraham Jones, former security guards from another nearby hotel, on suspicion of murder and kidnapping. Now, authorities never officially disclosed the reason for their arrests, but statements by Van Der Sloot and the Kalpoe brothers may have been a factor. Well, the statement they made that when she got out of the car, she was approached by someone who looked like the security guard. That's a lead. Reports about these two indicated they were known for cruising hotels to pick up women, and one of them had a prior incident with the law. However, they were released after a week without being charged. Finally, on the 9th of June, 10 days after she was last seen, Joran and the Kalpoe brothers, they were taken in again. They were arrested on the suspicion of kidnapping and murder. Joran and the brothers had been under surveillance since shortly after she was reported missing. According to investigators, one of the men admitted something bad happened to Natalee after the suspects took her to the beach. Now, as I said previously, these guys had a really hard time telling the truth, especially Joran. That is going to be crucial to this story. First, they stated they didn't know her name. Then they said they dropped her off at her hotel 30 minutes after they left the bar. Then they said they left her on the beach. Then Joran said they dropped him off and she left with the two brothers. Essentially, Joran and the brothers, they began to screw each other over, saying, oh no, she was last seen with those guys, and oh no, she was last seen with Joran. We don't know where she is. However, police began to suspect Joran a lot more than the two brothers, and they let the Kalpoe brothers go, but held on to Joran for about 2 months. One individual came forward with information. He claimed to have seen Joran attempting to hide his face as he drove near a pond with the Kalpoe brothers on the very early morning of May 30th. Another person claimed to have seen men burying a blonde-haired woman in a landfill during the afternoon of May 30th. Now, the police, they had already searched the landfill after Natalee's disappearance. However, after this claim, they searched again, with cadaver dogs even this time. But they found jack shit. Natalee's family initially offered $175,000 for her safe return. 2 months after her disappearance, the reward was increased to $1 million, with a $100,000 reward for information leading to the location of her remains. In August 2005, the reward for information leading to Natalee's body was increased to $250,000.
Is it that I mean, when you go back, do you feel like you're determined? You don't feel like a tremendous amount of this is so hard, I can't go back?
No.
None of that?
No way.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
You always been like this?
She has.
Kinda, yeah.
Both, and you too, Joe?
In a different way, yeah. I'm like that, yeah.
Because I'd want you two on my team. I'd want you two on my team on this.
She's very, very determined. I mean, she's going to find the answer. I mean, she is not going to quit till she finds it. And we think we know where it is. Well, we know where it is.
Where is it? It's in Aruba.
It's in Joran's head. It's in Deepak's head. They were there that night.
In September, Joran Van Der Sloot, he was released. He gave an interview to Fox News the following March. During the interview, Joran said that Natalee wanted to have sex with him, but he didn't because he didn't have a condom. He said that Natalee wanted them to stay on the beach, but that he had to get up to go to school in the morning. According to him, he was picked up by one of the Kalpoe brothers at about 3 a.m. and left Natalee sitting alone on the beach.
So yeah, at one point I told her, it's time to go back to your hotel. And she was just like, no, let's stay here. Let's look at the stars. She was just saying, stay here with me, just stay here with me the whole night. Tomorrow I have to go back anyway, and you know.
And of course the Kalpa brothers said, no, that's not what happened. After we left, we didn't see you again that night. Joran later released a book, The Case of Natalee Holloway, which was published in Dutch in 2007. In the book, Joran gives his perspective of the night Natalee disappeared and the media frenzy that followed. He admits to and apologizes for his initial untruths, how he kept flip-flopping and changing his story, but he maintains his innocence and says he had nothing to do with whatever happened to her. And time progressed. The investigation continued to try and find anything about her. They had literally found 0 pieces of evidence as to where she was and if she was even still alive. The last people to have seen her repeatedly changed their story about what happened that night. Every 5 minutes, it was something different. But they couldn't keep them arrested because there was nothing, they couldn't charge them. They had no evidence as to them having done anything to Natalee. They were just the last people she was seen with. Due to the authorities waiting until weeks after Natalee disappeared to pull the security footage, all of it was erased, and there was no way to validate Joran Van Der Sloot's claims of dropping her off at the beach. In 2007, as Aruba, the island it is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, a Dutch team, they took over the investigation into the disappearance of Natalee. And both Joran Van Der Sloot's family home and the Kalpo's home were searched, but nothing was unearthed. 6 months later, Joran and the Kalpo brothers were re-arrested due to new evidence. Now, the police never said what this evidence was, but it didn't stick just like last time, and they were released soon after. In 2008, something very unusual happened. Joran admitted to killing Natalee, or at least to disposing of her body. Yeah, this happened. While on hidden camera, Joran was in a car with a Dutch businessman in the Netherlands. He was smoking the devil's lettuce, and what he said was this. Apparently, she began to have some kind of seizure, became unresponsive, and they dumped the body.
En ik zeg tegen de krant, gewoon het oplossen. Toen zei hij van, ja, zijn boot staat daar zo, staat daar zo bij die pier zo, ik weet het ook. Ja. En hij zei tegen hem, ja oké, nou help me dan eventjes. Ja. En dus hebben we gewoon haar genomen naar die boot. Gekild. Ja, met z'n tweetjes even snel. En hij zei tegen me van, wat zei hij toen tegen me? Toen ik daar was, zei hij van ja, maar weet je, je moet wel morgen naar school toe gaan en die dingen, want als er een vermist meisje is, dan... Nee, joh, dat... Ja, maar dus dingen ook. Ik zei, ja, je hebt helemaal gelijk. Ik moet gewoon normale dingen doen.
Joran said that his father, who was a lawyer, helped him dump Natalee's body in the sea. Joran's father had come under suspicion numerous times, and he passed away in 2010.
15 minuten of zo.
Now, this was broadcast on TV as part of a documentary. Joran didn't know that. It was hidden camera, hidden microphones. He later said that he was just telling the other person what he thought he wanted to hear. And he denied any involvement, and he said what he said, that was a lie, that didn't happen. So just to reiterate, he was under the influence of weed. He didn't know he was being recorded, and he just decided to tell another guy, friend, that he had disposed of Natalee's body. And then he later said, when this came out, oh, I just told him what I thought he wanted to hear. And that was a lie. An arrest warrant was denied, however, after the footage came out. A judge said the statements on the tape were inconsistent with evidence in the case and were insufficient to arrest him. He just said those things for the crack. A few months later, another interview was aired with Joran Van Der Sloot, which he was getting paid for, by the way, in which he alleged that he sold Natalee into sexual slavery, receiving money both when Natalee was taken and later on to keep quiet. He also alleged that his father paid off 2 police officers who had learned that Natalee was taken to Venezuela.
Tell me what happened.
Then I got out, stepped out of the car, she was with me, went to the beach with her, and we were just making out, we never did anything else. And then at first I didn't see anyone there, I didn't know anything, and I was like, okay, whatever, you know, it's not gonna happen. Then I saw a guy, and he came, and he just handed me a bag, grabbed the girl by the arm, and he went to the boat that he had in the water.
What did Natalee say?
She said nothing. nothing till she was on the boat, and then she was like, hey, what's going on? You're not coming with me, or I don't know. She wasn't panicking or anything. And then when I was on the boat and the boat went away, I still heard like what's going on. I think she was pretty drunk. That's what the main thing was.
But she didn't struggle with this guy to go to the boat?
Mm-mm.
Didn't you think that was odd?
No, because I said we were going to go on a boat.
You told her that?
Mm-hmm. That was my story, to go to the beach there, that we were going to go on a boat.
What did the guy give you?
He gave me a bag of money.
$10,000?
It wasn't even 10,000. It was less. That's what I was saying.
As he just loves to do, he later retracted these statements as well and said, oh, no, I didn't actually do that. That was just bullshitting you. However, I think what we can take from what Joran did, what he was doing, releasing a book, changing his story every 5 minutes, giving multiple interviews, claiming this happened, no, this happened, no, this happened, no, that was a lie. He was diluting the truth so much that we may never know what happened to Natalee, because you have no idea if anything he says is true, anything he says has ever been true. You don't know what's lies and what's the truth. He tells so many lies. He also loves being in the limelight, so he will continue to tell lies, maybe bits of truth sprinkled in there, to make money off it, and to have his face in the paper. But him being in the limelight is going to come up again very soon, because Joran Van Der Sloot was just a real piece of work, especially when he tried to extort the Holloway family for $250,000. He said that if they gave him that much money, he would tell them where her body was and how she died. Now, of course, the Holloway family told the FBI, and then they wired him $15,000. The information he gave them in return was bullshit. He said Natalee's body was in a house that had not been built when she vanished. The FBI were on him immediately. He was indicted on extortion and wire fraud. And after that, it gets even better. In May 2010, it's now been 5 years since Natalee disappeared. In Lima, Peru, Stephanie Tatiana Flores Ramirez, a 21-year-old business student, was found dead in a hotel room registered in Joran's name. 1 month later in Chile, Joran was arrested on a murder charge and extradited to Peru. Joran confessed to killing this woman after he lost his temper, because she accessed his laptop without permission and found information linking him to Natalee Holloway. In 2012, Joran pled guilty to the murder and was sentenced to 28 years in prison. He later said of the extortion plot against the Holloway family, "I just wanted to get back at Natalee's family. Her parents have been making my life tough for the last 5 years." I feel I just need to remind you that he was willingly and getting paid for interviews about her disappearance and also wrote a book about it. In November 2010, tourists found a jawbone on an Aruban beach. A preliminary examination by a forensic expert determined that the bone was from a young woman. However, a later examination determined that it was not even possible to determine whether it had come from a man or a woman. And it certainly wasn't Natalee's. And this was not the first time the police thought they had found some evidence into the disappearance. Shortly after her disappearance, for example, investigators found a piece of duct tape with strands of blonde hair attached to it. The samples were tested at an FBI laboratory, where the FBI announced that the hair samples did not belong to Natalee. In June 2011, 6 years after Natalee's disappearance, her father Dave Holloway filed a petition. He was seeking to have his daughter declared legally dead. It was granted 7 months later. In 2016, Dave Holloway hired a private investigator, TJ Ward, to once again go through all the evidence and information related to the disappearance of his daughter. This led to an informant, Gabriel, who claimed to have been a roommate of one of Joran's closest friends, an American by the name of John Ludwig. Gabriel was John's roommate in 2005. He claimed that Ludwig was told what became of Natalee. Using Gabriel's information, the investigator had found what appeared to be human bones, but yet again, DNA testing concluded it didn't belong to Natalee. Now, Joran's friend, John Ludwig, claimed to have helped him dig up, smash and cremate Natalee's bones in 2010. This was broadcast in an interview on the Oxygen channel. Elizabeth Holloway, Natalee's mother, sued the producers of this program, alleging the claims are fictional and harmful, and that she was misled into providing a DNA sample for comparison without being made aware of plans for a show. The lawsuit states the documentary series was not a real investigation into new leads about the teen's disappearance, but rather a scripted, pre-planned farce designed for the network's profit. And there you have it. Now, bizarrely, in March 2018, John Ludwig was in the news again, and for not an entirely unrelated incident. In Florida, he tried to kidnap a woman from her driveway, and she stabbed him in self-defense, killing him. And that brings us to date on the investigation into Natalee Holloway. And we don't know anything about what happened to her that night. I think it's most likely that Joran did in fact kill Natalee. He later proved he was capable of murder when he killed somebody for just accessing his computer without his permission. I don't think he sold her into slavery. Joran's family had powerful connections. They were wealthy. His father was a lawyer. He probably thought he could just get away with anything. And he was above the law, essentially. And everything that came out of Joran's mouth was a lie. The truth became unrecognizable. His friend, the late John Ludwig, although his claims proved unreliable, the bones found through his information were not Natalee's. He also proved himself capable of violence when he tried to kidnap a woman. It seems most likely that Natalee was drugged and then murdered. Joran, definitely involved. The Culper brothers, possibly. So you see, we've heard a lot about Joran and the despicable things he has done, which is a lot. However, while I don't believe that Natalee was sold into slavery, there is one more piece of evidence that could lend credence to that. In November 2008, Joran actually worked as part of a sex trafficking ring in Bangkok. While using the pseudonym Murphy Jenkins, he would sell Thai women into prostitution in the Netherlands for 13,000 euros apiece. Thailand was pursuing criminal charges at the time, and he was posing as a production consultant for a modeling agency that would send them to Europe. Joran is a psychopath. He enjoyed the media circus, and as much as he said he didn't after he was arrested for extortion, he loved the attention and he loved making money off a young woman's disappearance any way he could, including telling lies after lies after lies, so that no one would ever really know what actually happened and what the truth was. He is still in prison, was sentenced to 28 years, so he will be there for a long time yet in Peru, thankfully. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts on the Natalee Holloway disappearance down below, please. And as always, I will see you real soon in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Mike out.